Alright, we're going to jump back here and transition in. That transition is kind of fast, so it jumps in there. I could probably slow that down. But as you can see, I have a new setup, a really good green screen setup, and I'm actually just looking at myself on the wall to see what everything looks like, make sure all the audio is in place. And I'll just show you guys behind the scenes real quick what it looks like so you know what I'm working with here. So I got like a wall, and I actually can't show you the screen, but basically I have a big backdrop, the big screen like I showed you guys earlier. So we're going to try something new today. This is Digivision Studios, or Stream.Digistudios.Live version 2 in my new place. And so I finally am setting this stuff up. I got this remote here. I have the space to actually have 2/3 of my body in place behind the backdrop. And really today I'm just going to talk about some different endeavors, going into a lot of the desktop stuff like I usually do. I am still working on bringing a lot of After Effects stuff into the game for a lot of these transitions. And if you guys have been watching a lot of my reels I've been putting on social media, where I'm using particles and all kinds of stuff, I'm really trying to make some time to do some really cool transitional space and experiences, environments for a lot of this broadcast stuff in Digistudios.Live and the future of what it is. And so today I'm going to go through an agenda and pitch some of the stuff I've been working on. And really what it entails is some of the projects you already know, like Experience Over Media on DFX, which is my immersive broadcast agency, where I'm talking about the future of film, what we can do with a lot of really cool depth cameras. I actually have, if I come off screen real quickly here, I actually have a Connex camera here, and they are getting smaller and more powerful every day. So, let me go ahead and just make sure that I am back on the screen there before I do that. So I gotta remember to do that. So what I was saying is, today we're going to talk about some cool projects that I've been discussing and sharing with the world, along with revealing some cool new ideas I have that I just want to do and I'm talking with people about. I have this little remote. This is a little CanaKit mini keyboard and mouse, and I've had it for a long time, and it actually works really well for this broadcast stuff. I can see my windows on the wall over there, make sure all my audio levels are in place, and I've transitioned to a new space. I'm in South Boston. This is the second time living, and a lot of the growth it's given me and the lessons I've learned over time living here. And so being back here has been really exciting because this beautiful new place I have is a lot of fun. I got a lot more space to permanently set up my backdrop, so I don't have to worry about it. Obviously, you see my key day is a lot better than what it usually is. And I don't have a lapel mic. That's probably the next thing I'll invest back in. I used to have a few when I sold them off. I didn't use them in the past as much. But this shotgun mic is a pretty good Sony one that came with the camera that I'm broadcasting off of that I've had for a while now. And so on top of all of that, I've been doing a lot of fun stuff with this place, a lot of home automation. I have a Google Home, and I'm getting everything figured out. I was installing some Nest thermostats today, and having some issues with my HVAC, maybe not playing nice with them. But I'll share all that with you guys once I get to that, and everything's in place. I'll show you some of the cool stuff and what it can do, and a lot of the automation, how it's going to help me in my life, really drive forward a lot of my professional life and organize the last 15, 20 years of everything's moving around all these places. But more importantly, as you see behind me, I have this really cool backdrop of the Earth and what I assume is our moon. And this has really been the theme of my rebrand for DigiFX. If I step back a little bit without getting too much detail about DigiFX, I started it almost 15 years ago with my buddy Chris Russo. And we did it in our small little apartment in Alston, which is a very college area in Boston. And it was like your traditional college dorm room, recording audio in the closet with shirts on the wall so that it acted like diffusion and absorb a lot of the echo, which I probably have to do in this place. And then slowly but surely we rebranded it from Digivision FX to Digivision Studios, and it was DigiFX, and then now it's DFX, and I'm still trying to get my hands on the dfx.com domain. if you look at it, you go, there's actually, some old school guy, a internet guru, I would say, probably owns it because it's had a site up there that's probably 30 something years old. So maybe one day he'll sell it and let me do stuff with it. Just like you hear a lot about these tech guys, reaching out to get these really desirable domains so that they can further their goals and their endeavors as entrepreneurs and just founders. So I figured what I would do today is I've been really organizing my professional life in terms of a lot of the business goals and have. And so I have this folder here, and this folder has all these projects and really stuff that I'm focusing on within my company, my LLC. And so DigiFX itself is its own LLC, and I'm probably going to be launching an S Corp or C Corp soon for Experience Over Media, so I can get everything in place. And I have another third endeavor that I'm also going to take on called Proto. I'll talk about that a little bit later. It involves autonomous driving or guided vehicles, and I'm conceptualizing what I call modular deployment systems that allow for you to kind of plug in these different autonomous things to do cool stuff. And so I'll get into that in a little bit, but in here I have this agenda. And so in the further broadcast, I will actually share with you guys like the agenda, the paperwork, and you can follow along just like it'd be like a conference. And this is kind of keeps me on track in terms of what I'm talking about. So I have a bunch of like a list items, and so this first one right here that I have is basically my live notes, kind of talking about the new Studios.Live. So I'm going to briefly go through this stuff, and then we'll dive into the DigiFX stuff. I'll talk about what's going on in Experience Over Media. I know I've been putting it on the back burner. It's been pretty slow, but moving and a lot of this, just taking a break from all the entrepreneurship was something I really needed to do to be able to step up and offer this kind of experience moving forward. So let me just go ahead and put this down, and I don't like that it keys me off of there. I need to maybe tilt that over a little bit. What did I do with my controller here? Yeah, so one cool thing about this is I can just come in, I can literally just edit in front of the camera for everybody. And so this is kind of a pitch style stream today. I still am practicing, but once I have all my broadcast stuff into place, I'm using a lot of my slides as backdrops as I keep myself out, try to keep it nice and clean. And then as I get behind my computer in the next month or so, I'll be able to do some really desirable, cool transitional things that will help us kind of keep you entertained. So now when I reach over, at least it goes off the video. That's just something that I like, and then I can go right about here, and I should probably tape where that is, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and talk about our live update, DigiStudios.Live. So as you can see, I get this really cool new broadcast space. And today we're going to talk about discussing some of our new brand identities. And I was going to showcase some .coms that I have been working on. But I'll just talk about them briefly if you guys follow my work. I have this site called video3k.com. It's essentially a viral media miner, I call it. And it basically pulls videos from all over the web, not just YouTube, but Vimeo and Dailymotion and all these other streaming video sites. It compiles all this stuff, and essentially what it's doing, it's pulling thumbnails and titles and information about the video and links to it. It's not actually pulling the video itself; that's still hosted on the actual .com it comes from. But it allows for me to create databases that I can then bring that information into an immersive space, like a metaverse style environment. So video3k.com is a project I've worked on a few times, and it allows for me to collect a lot of media, and I can search by keywords and group them into different categories, similar to how you see another streaming service react. However, it's just my own personal thing I can control, and it's actually a lot of fun. The downside is I'm running out of space fast on it. I think I have like 60,000 videos up there in the course of a couple of months, and I'm paying for server space, and it's filling up a lot of that. So something I have to think about. Now on the other site, I want to just briefly talk about that is on the back burner. Part of experience over media, the experiences I'm trying to create, is my really cool gear and recreational stuff, but in 3D, and you can shop and engage it and use it and utilize it and play with it within this 3D spaces and environments we create. And so I have a site up here now that basically is similar to the Video 3K. Basically, I'm just propagating certain items that I'm going to bring into immersive storefronts, and it's going to be a brand within Experience Over Media. We'll get into Zom a little bit and where we're at with that, but essentially Zom's going to have a few different brands with built into it once we launch it. And so one's going to be my adventure.store, one's going to be Zom branded white label stuff, so to speak. And then I don't really know what the third one is yet, but I like to work in threes, so we'll probably have a third kind of alternative one there. So after we kind of discuss what's going on here, I'll talk a little bit briefly about DigiFX or DFX, the immersive agency platform I'm working on, the onboarding user process, or the user onboarding process, what it means, the immersive broadcast features I'm trying to build out, and the conceptual depth camera rigs that you'll see in the future in a broadcast like this. Now, we're still on 2D screen in this kind of environment and broadcast, but in the future you will actually have headsets and wearables to where you can put somebody like myself in a 3D form, and using 3D technologies like photogrammetry, you can use UV mapping to wrap my skin and my facial features and just my body around a 3D object so that it's placed in the environment, kind of like a hologram, or projection mapping is another way you can think of it. Two different technologies, but both play a part in what you can do. And then we'll dive into Experience Over Media and where we're at with that. I'll talk a little bit about the immersive product anchoring system and where we are in that phase of the development, and then how we're phasing the pilot beta into cities, and how I've been collecting a solid amount of users all around so that I can really figure out what needs to happen to take it to the next steps. And with that comes the migration of the SaaS-based logistics. So if you're talking about enterprise-level businesses, there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of players and partnerships that are a part of that. And so I've been compiling, collecting, and working with dozens, dozens of companies that are all going to play a part in that experience, and really are going to be the masters to help drive it forward, and the professional people that are in place to make it happen. I'm simply bringing the concepts to life by working with them and trying to strategize a feasible way to bring it into the marketplace. And then there's a few more things that are not on here because this is outdated, but I'm going to talk about essentially my Zycon conference, which is like any company. When you have some products that you want to promote, you have a conference or a gathering, whether it's virtual or in the real world, where people come together with like-minded interests and really experience firsthand a lot of the technologies and the media and the industries that play a part in that. And so the Zycon conference essentially is just partnership and industry resources, but it's also going to be where I release and launch and showcase some new stuff and reveal some cool concepts I'm working on. And I also wanted to talk about, or basically make that a place for what I call my Dare to Dream Innovation Program. And so just like you guys all, anybody that follows me in a lot of what I've been doing, you know that I encourage younger people to really think about what they want to do in their life and really strive to make the most out of their time here on this earth. And it does really require a lot of effort and energy and focus to want to continue to keep on moving forward when really there's a lot of things that are stopping you and blocking you and pulling your focus away from what you need to do to make stuff like that happen, anything you're trying to go after. So the Dare to Dream program is my way of giving back and encouraging young people and inspiring them to try to live their best lives. And so that is pretty much going to be on the agenda. The only other thing I didn't mention there is I'm going to talk about my new Proto Limited company, which is going to be a limited LLC, which is essentially going to be a hardware development, like drones and rovers. I built a lot of the autonomous stuff in the past few years, and I have a keen interest for that. And I think where the world's going, where we see a lot of the big tech giants doing in this world is transitioning into a green energy efficient space, and I really want to play a part in that and help develop and encourage or build off of what they're doing and bring more value to them. And so my Proto Limited company is Proto, and then all the vehicles have a subset name, and I'll actually tell you the 4 names that I came up with. However, I'm not going to show you the conceptual drawings yet, but you should know that I am working with some designers and Italian designers to make some really cool slick stuff for the future. So it'll be a lot of fun. And then lastly, I'm going to briefly break into my new campaign strategy with social media and how I'm promoting a lot of this stuff. And again, thinking about rich media reels and those kind of concepts. So that's pretty much it. That's the agenda and the notes that I have in front of me here. And so what you see behind me is my pitch deck for DigiFX, or DFX, my new immersive agency platform. And so I'm just going to briefly go through it. It's not complete, and so keep in mind I'm constantly improving upon my pitches and my broadcast experiences. And it's hard to do all this on your own. So, but I am getting better at this. My key's a lot better today than it's been in a long time, just because I have a lot of lights up right now. And these LED lights are really nice because they're not that bright, but they key me out pretty well. Versus the hue lights I was using in the past, which were also LED, I believe, they didn't have the full spectrum and the sprawl or the plane that these square ones that I have that I'm using do. And so just to show you what it looks like behind the scenes, I can briefly, I don't know if I lose my mouse here though. When I'm trying to, oh, this actually turns off, it saves battery, that's what it is. So I can go into here and I should be able to zoom in. So this is a triple camera layout. You see that's what the room looks like. I can also go in here and just show you behind the light there, kind of what it looks like there. I don't have these lights on here. And you can actually see that there's a bunch of stuff over there against my sliding door that I need to clean up. Got my 3D printer right there, which I'll bust out and start doing some stuff with in a little bit when I find a space for it. But yeah, I've got a lot more room to breathe and walk around, and I kind of feel like a weatherman up here. So should I tell you guys the weather, or do you know it? And so let's go ahead and dive into the slide deck. Now, there's 2 ways I could show my slides, and I'm going to do them both ways and they test out which one's better. DFX, I actually am using OBS, and there's a feature where I can just go next and previous with this. For some reason, my ZOM pitch deck isn't showing all the slides in OBS, and when I try to reload it, it only shows a certain amount. I don't know if it's caching, I don't know if it's OBS, this needs to be restarted. Sometimes it happens where you have to restart the program for it to actually work fully. And so I'm going to just use a browser like Google Slides and share it that way. So it's the same thing, however, this is a different place that you're seeing it, and I'm keyed out in both places. So let's talk about our DFX stuff today. And I think I'm pressing next. I think I have to be actually on it. All right. And maybe not. I think I have to be on the slide layer here. Next. Okay. And then I go P for previous. So this should be the last slide. I don't know why it's in the front, but DFX, the rebrand, what it is. Here's the slide that kind of encompasses and showcases our site that we've created for the rebrand initiative there. And so if you haven't seen the new DigiFX, I encourage you to go check it out. You can just type in DigiFX in your browser and search for it. And real quickly, I will show you that. I like to full screen everything so it's nice and clean. However, Google is still not. They still have the scroll bar in full screen, which I asked them to remove it, but they just don't want to listen, I guess. But this is the new site. And then I'll step to the side so you can see it. It's really just a splash page. It's not done. Nothing's really done. But it's this space age theme, and then on here I have my different initiatives now. But that's kind of like being morphed into it. And then MoFace is another thing. I need to add Proto to this because Proto is going to be another thing that I am going to be working on, all the hardware stuff. And that's one of my favorite things to do, which is why it's pretty much up there in terms of a lot of the fun stuff. But this is the new DFX, and this is a basic class page. You can reach out. I simplified our site. There's a lot of stuff. You still have access to the old site, and eventually we'll bring the links back. If for some reason you want to check out a lot of the old stuff, you can just go to this policy link. Where is it? Right here, and then that will bring you to the old part of the site. Like a lot of our creative services and stuff, and I could probably add the link if I had to. But, so it should load. There we go. I've been having, my server's been running out of space because of my Video 3K site, so that's why you're seeing some of this delay in the cache. But that's our old site, is what you go to and what you see. So, what I was getting at, if I go back to my pitch deck here, okay. Just trying to figure out why I'm not on the screen anymore here. Turn myself off. So, still figuring stuff out, but a lot better shape than we've been. And so, this is the pitch deck for that new site and the new brand. And so we'll talk about it a little bit today and what I'm trying to do with it and what it really means. There's an agency platform. There's actually an immersive portal that I could show you guys. But we'll do it in the very end, or maybe I'll show you briefly. So let's talk about this. So if I go, this is where I wanted to actually slide myself over, depending on where I was, and then so now I'm over here, and it'd be cool if I can go like morph into this astronaut guy. But essentially, this is just a slide that links to two different things. There's nothing there that really matters. And then to show you guys that you haven't seen, come on, OBS. You got it. So let's briefly talk about the development milestones. Now I can't really read these, but I kind of know what they are. So basically there's 3 phases, and these dates are probably going to be adjusted. I just put these up here. So we have a pilot phase, an alpha phase, and a beta phase. And really what I'm talking about is I'm talking about my immersive agency platform. And essentially it's portals to where you can go in and you can broadcast yourself in these environments. Now I'm trying to work with famous actresses and actors and influencers and celebrities, pardon that, they wanted to. Obviously, you got to pay for their time, and you have to compensate them for their their talent and their skill sets and their fame, most importantly. And so I have to figure out ways to make that happen. But the development phase to that is I've broken it down into pretty much 3 to 6 months phases. So you could call it quarterly or phases if we can do it within 3 months. But the pilot is just basically a proof of concept, making sure it can all work and be handled and handle a lot of the WebXR experiences that you're going to be having. And then the alpha phase itself is where we really dive in and start bringing a lot of the 3D textures and the testing out the broadcast experiences and a lot of the hardware that entails. And then the beta phase is when we actually roll it out and try to start getting people to use it. Now, again, I'm using the DFX agency platform in a web browser because I'm trying to separate it from the experience over media stuff, which is mobile, and it's also going to be like within AR and XR and VR. So it's a little bit different, but they both play a part into what they can do. And yeah, see, for some reason these are out of order. I don't know why they're doing that. Okay, so that's fine. We'll go this way. So this QR code, if you scan it right here, I think brings you to the site. I'm pretty sure that's what that was. When I first announced the rebrand, I got a lot of reaction and traction from this one guy holding his hand out with the QR code. That people thought it was pretty clever. I thought it was clever, and so that's, if you scan that, it'll bring you to the site. Here we go. Now we're in the right direction. So to start this pitch off, and really start off why I decided to dive into this technology and a lot of this stuff, I want us to step back and really clear our minds and understand where we are in the world, what the technology is available to us, and what we're capable of doing with all the hardware coming together, along with where we see the world going. Now, I call this my state of consciousness slide, because it really talks about the past, the present, and the future, and very simple concepts. Again, I can't really read that. I kind of remember what it says. But in the beginning, we're always learning, right? And we're in an ever-evolving world where we're constantly building off of the last player, last generation and century of people that did cool things from technology. And that's really the present, is like what the stuff, what we know and how we can react with it. Now, the thing about, sorry, I have to cheat a little bit. So what's really cool about space, and the theme why I went for this theme, is because really Earth and just the world we love really binds us together, whether we think we're different, and besides all the politics and also we see happening in the world, which is very sad and unfortunate. We really all are on this planet, all trying to do the same thing in our own ways, right? That's live the best lives, and some of us are better at it than others. Some of us are kinder than others. Some of us have better, really more give back more. Some people take more. There's always evil and good in the world, but the core thing is to understand is that what we do today ultimately defines tomorrow for somebody else when our time has passed. So that's how you have to really look at what you bring to the table and the stuff you want to build, or what you want to do with your life if you really want to make the most out of it. Now, I wrote an article the other day about how music influenced my life, and I really, if you guys go to my LinkedIn, if you just search Nathaniel Millett, LinkedIn, I'll come up on Google right there, and I talked about how music was a huge influence in my life, all the different kinds of genres I went through, and I'm also going to do a follow-up article about how media and it has been a part of that too, and specifically like movies and actors and actresses, and how they've really changed my life and my perspective of how I want to, dive into a lot of the media interests I do and a lot of technology stuff I love. But that is, and apparently this decided it was just going to start going again, huh? It wasn't supposed to do that. I turned it off. See, OBS can be quirky sometimes, guys. It just doesn't really care sometimes. Sometimes it just does what it wants to. So if I go in here, I can turn off the automatic slides. Okay, so it's manual. I don't know why it's changing. Positional space, if you look at this dot right there, of we're understanding where the world's going in this next phase of technology and how we can expand upon what's in our world, what's out there, what Elon's trying to do with SpaceX, what Bezos is trying to do with Blue Origin, and all the other companies that are trying to further our reach and our scope of what we can see and what we know as normalcy. So that's really the space we're in. It's really exciting if you understand it, and if you follow a lot of the news and a lot of the things that like is happening, we're constantly trying to push those bounds. And so I'm just trying to do it my own way to contribute to those people and those companies and those huge groups of people coming together to try to make it happen in my own way. And so there's still a lot we just don't know. And really what we don't know is why we need to search and continue asking questions. And the key thing is, it's not having the right answers, it's making sure you're asking the right questions that you can accomplish those goals by thinking them through, trial and error, and repetitively going after it, until you figure it out or improve upon whatever it is you're trying to set, the standards. So DFX is a way to bring a lot of this stuff together, in my opinion. These are 4 different industries that I'm tapping into that use immersive stuff. Immersive ecom is my Zom stuff. Immersive broadcast is DFX. Immersive chatbot is going to be my awaretechnology.com. It's basically just like any other chatbot, but it's going to be in 3D space and be integrated into it. And the immersive media is the video 3K stuff that I'm talking about that brings in a lot of the media into these spaces to where you can watch viral YouTube stuff or anything like that. And so this rebrand initiative, totally out of this world, allowed for me to step back and really embrace this new concept. And so with that, unfortunately behind this is a button that you can go to on the site. And I've created this platform for an agency experience to onboard users through this questionnaire system that asks you certain questions in an environment, and that directs you to certain themed places and worlds that can be gamer based, they can be movie based, they can be music based, media based. It doesn't matter. It's essentially just allows you to funnel and guide people in certain directions, right? And so again, I'm focusing on these 3 key areas, and this you can't really see, but this is my my agency, my immersive pipeline ecosystem of how all my technologies are playing a part into the mainstream marketplace. And I do have a link for this on my my links deck for any investors, anybody that watches my stuff. There is an actual PDF, you can read all that, and so I won't go through it here. But basically just walks through all technologies playing a part and how this is going to come out and make sense in the long run, whether you integrate it into another enterprise or you just have a standalone process. And so this is just a look at the, this is where it just starts going fast for some reason, maybe because I'm pressing. Okay. I don't know why it does that. This is why I kind of is using the browser with Google Slides. I don't have to worry about this stuff changing on me. But behind me is just a look at the interface I've set up that's live right now, and essentially these tiles. There's nothing really there other than the questionnaires that are onboarding these tiles, and I'm building out my very first environment, which is going to be that one right there. And there's a total of like a dozen or so environments I've chosen based off of movie scenes and movies that I really like. Space age kind of theme movies, but not everything. Some of it's fantasy, and there's a few that are just like series. But a lot of the stuff that's themed around really cool stuff in another world far away. And so with our immersive agency platform and our immersive broadcasting, we're able to see new dimensions using this stuff. And so this is the list I have here, and I'll go ahead and just step off the screen real quick so you can read it. But essentially these are 12, how many are there? There's 12, I think, or 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, yeah, 15 movies or media films that I've chosen to create in themed-like environments, and essentially trying to get the mainstream studios to buy into this and let me have licensed their stuff so that I don't get sued for copyright, right? And the goal is to also reach out and work with the actors and actresses that are famous for these environments to help promote this immersive broadcast hardware that I'm conceptualizing and building out. And I'll talk about the rigs in a little bit and what I have figured out, what I have planned that I'm actually going to prototype in this room for the, and try to use it and showcase the value there while I build out these environments. But essentially each one of these themed movies will help me kind of guide the environments I create. They're not going to be, I'm not going to reference the names that you see here. These are inspirational and they're just samples I chose to kind of guide me on where I can go with this. Now, we'll talk about our immersive hardware tiers for a second here. So I have a 4-tier system, and if you want to think about how this is going to work, essentially everybody can buy a starter rig, which is just 3 depth cameras on like a mount, similar to you have a monitor mount on your desk. And then from there you can just want to make sure that I'm still... What's going on here? Just gotta make sure I'm still streaming. Sometimes YouTube will just cut out. Okay, we're still good. I just froze for a bit. So, like I was saying, the pricing when I'm trying to get it down to is in $300 $500 range for a starter pack, and then variances of $300 from that. So there's a broadcast plus, a premium bundle, and an ultimate exposure. And you get more with each one, and it's something that will have, you have hydraulic arms, and then presets. Want to do an immersive broadcast, you just turn it on, it opens up, and it will capture you using photogrammetry and UV mapping to project you into an environment, and then you can invite your friends in these themed environments. So that's where I'm going with this, and again, I'll show you briefly the platform in the end that's live on my site that will host this when we get there. And so I'm going to find my slides real quick here. Okay, so in this we're also going to have the immersive chatbot from our Aware Technology. The company's called Aware Technology. Right now it's just a subset or a branch off of my DigiFX entities I create. I have a bunch of them. And so it's got a lot of machine learning, AI, and predictive analytics that will help engage and entice people in part of the onboarding process in the DFX studio that we created. I'm also integrating my experience of Bermuda iPass system, and we will talk about this briefly later. This is after the DFX stuff, but essentially my iPass system is up and running. I do have payment processing in place, and the next step is to integrate with a mapping system so that people can place it on location and then use rovers in real time to deliver stuff. Part of why I'm creating my Proto Initiative or Proto Limited side company is that's going to be the hardware side of all of this. And I'm at a point now where I have people able to sign up for this. I can release this iPass system, but I have no way of getting the products once they place something and pay for it. So I obviously can partner with other companies that do this, and we are doing that, and we already have thought about making that happen. However, at the same time, I think it's very good to also conceptualize and create your own versions of what you want to instill and the vision you have for it. And so I'm really excited about a lot of the proto stuff that we're working with. It's a lot of fun, and I can get my hands dirty and do a lot of hands-on building and basically create stuff that maybe could be something more than just stuff we would use here on the street level. Maybe it's something we can shoot up into space and use elsewhere someday if I do it right. So I'm not getting into Zom just yet, but we'll skip all this stuff, but I use my immersive automation process to help deploy and deliver all this stuff. And this is the slide I was confused about why I was up front, but basically there's some limitations that we're facing with a lot of this DFX stuff, and just reading it quickly, browser compatibility is always going to be an issue. You got to make sure browsers support a lot of the 3D technology you're putting within a browser interface. We have internet limitations, as in our infrastructure needs to be able to handle a lot of the heavier files, and maybe someday I will be able to do that. But in the meantime, you have to have that kind of stuff to make it happen. And we're also dealing with evolving hardware, like wearables and a lot of sensors and things to help us connect with the other these 3D environments. So that's constantly changing, and we have to figure that out as we go. So I talked about the development milestones, so I will skip that. These are the links, and this is the end page. So for some reason those are out of order. Maybe I went out of order. But that's pretty much DigiFX, or DFX I should say, in a nutshell. So what I'll do real quickly is I will briefly go to show you guys a demo of, there's no reason why it wouldn't be if my site's up. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and full screen that. I'll go to my center screen here. I will zoom in there. And if you scroll down the site right here, and you click this button, that will bring us to our agency. So I'm going to drink some water and take a break, but I'll let you watch this. I don't know if the audio on the computer's on. Let's see. Maybe I can add it on here. It should launch. It has to be cached. Work here. Usually when the fans start, it usually launches, but I don't think it's wanting to. Alright, well, I'll just let you go there and check it out for your own. It should load faster. It might be because I have a cache on here, but I'm not going to worry about it. We will continue. So, on to the next thing. Experience over media. Okay, so I am going to go through this. This is, I haven't updated it. As you know, I've been pretty busy with a lot of stuff logo needs to be fixed, and there's some stuff in here that's still old that you've seen. So I'll briefly go through this. I'm pretty sure people know what Experience Over Media is by now on my iPass and what it can do and what it's capable of. There are people out there, copying this and doing it. So I know it's been seen, but we'll briefly talk about what Experience Over Media does and what it can offer you. So, really the bread and butter behind it is my iPass system, an immersive product anchoring system. And what it allows for you to do is take products in the real world, drones, rovers, partner programs, you name it, autonomous vessels. Obviously, there's not where sometimes people aren't on roads, sometimes they're up on mountains or peaks or out in sea. So we're working on technology to help deploy things to people wherever they may be. And part of the Proto initiative is going to help me do that. So let me get back to our, I really need somebody to help move these slides for me. That'd be nice. If I could have somebody do this, my pitch. Is that right? No, that's the other wrong way. So what is Zom? Well, I just told you it's a platform that allows you to deploy e-commerce stuff, and then it knows to generate whatever you filter out in those locations. It's using algorithms to place it randomly, depending on how we do that. Now it uses our immersive automation process, and so this is an 8-stage series of handoffs within different technologies. It's very complicated, complex. There's a bunch of working systems here that we've partnered with to make this happen. And it starts from just compiling and composing like certain environments, configuring it, customizing it to your needs, engaging somebody and collecting analytics on what they're interacting with, and then creating a purchasing and distribution process. Now, I kind of skipped a few steps in my development and went straight for the iPass because that was the most desirable hands-on first approach to get it on out to the public, an MVP and a pilot. However, as I build up these environments, a lot of this other stuff will play a part in it. And the deployment strategy is kind of the last step I'm working on right now, and to make it happen. Now, to get a little bit into the details of the how you can use it on a phone, the LiDAR on an iPhone allows you to scan a room and create environments. As we all know, when you have AR, it's placing a plane. And then with that, we can use algorithms to place anchors based off of the size of the planes, or have preset rooms that are already figured out. And then we can generate these different products. And so ladder mapping allows us to do that based off of brands. And if you didn't see my pilot pitch I did last year that really got this notice, then I suggest you go check it out. I called it my Skywalk. It was a Nike themed Skywalk, and since then I've stepped away from talking about brands I've used just for the sake of not getting myself in trouble. I didn't have permission from Nike to use their stuff. I was just using them to conceptualize the technology and what it can be. And so I called it my Skywalk, and it had a bunch of cool stuff in there. Now it's scalable. We can actually use the databases within AWS that we create, and Google Maps, and all the other things in between to deploy a very scalable environmental shopping experience with all of this stuff. And we also have a social feed that's integrated similar to a TikTok, or deploy a lot of this stuff. And then we have trigger tags where we can see what people are looking at, and then we collect down there those chat systems. We can then engage and interact with people and suggest like-minded stuff. So it's passive data collection, and it's not, or it's data transparency, to where we're allowing for you to control what we collect and utilize within it for your benefit. And it really is a good thing if you understand the value behind what it can bring to your experiences, to where you can have like an assistant, like in this home automation that I have in this place, play a part in your everyday environments and experiences. And so I will create a little demo in this room probably. Eventually I have my Magic Leap somewhere in one of these bags, in my Oculus packed away. I still have to get a Quest. I haven't bought one yet, so that's on the list of things. And it will play a part in a lot of the stuff we're talking about here. So that's pretty much it for Zom. Now, I'm not going to go into the other details that I've shown in the past, and there are some examples I can show, but I'm going to hold off on those for now, and we'll move on and talk about something else. Alright. So I actually skipped a part of how I want to do my pitch usually. So usually what I do is I usually build into why Experience Over Media came about. So I have this pitch agenda that I pitched last year, and it talked about a timeline of events of how we got here, and really the big data revolution. And we started in 1939 with all these different technologies coming to playing part. And I'm not going to get into this because I've already done videos on this, but really it's been a decade or so, or I should say a century or so worth of technologies that got us to where we need to be now in the Experience Over Media stuff. And so I thought about a lot of this stuff, and it really made me want to create this immersive product anchoring system that, or this automation process to fix a lot of that stuff, and also transition from a lot of disorganization and clutter in the technology world to a more streamlined and unbound futuristic experience. And that's how Experience Over Media came about, in my mind. So we'll go through that, we'll skip that, and yeah, now we're on my next steps. Right here, we've got our next steps. And this is really the present of where I am with Experience Over Media. So you can see the order of which I want to do this for a pitch. I know pitches are 10 minutes, but this is kind of a mega, technology pitch of my company, of all the stuff I'm doing. And so the next steps is really the pilot beta launch. And so I have a checklist of a few things right here that I'm working on. The iPass integration, that's done. The payment gateway is done. The mobile mapping is pretty much in place, but there's nothing to deploy the stuff to. And so let me go ahead and just change the screen to something else here. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I was using the wrong slide deck. I was supposed to be using the one over here. That's why I wasn't showing everything. Yeah, because some of the slides I left out, I didn't even get to talk about. but it's okay. I can quickly just transition to that, which is nice. Assuming I remember how to get there. So, I wrote this in the beginning of this, and I'll just read it out to you about why I'm doing a lot of this stuff. And so I call it really just like a celebration of 100 year, and I talked about this, of global collaboration, of how we're trying to create technologies, and the push for innovation being a communal thing. Competitive nature is good, but also working with other people and encouraging people to get involved to create the greater good of the world is something that's very important to me. And so I wrote, inspired by the innovation and continuous contribution of creators, dreamers, and doers all over the world who further the technology and media we use every day. It is with great honor that we continue to make content and creative tools like experiential media to help serve our world today, to build a better foundation for what tomorrow has in store. So that's really our mission statement, or our narrative, or our passion behind the project of why I personally am doing this. Growing up in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley in the 90s, and watching my dad bring me to the office, and me playing in the computer rooms and the T1 lines and the fast internet that was, and all that stuff really inspired me to want to do something like that. And it took me a long time to figure out what I could do and how I could do it. And I'm still learning, but I'm just trying to give back for what I was inspired by somebody else. And so hopefully I can inspire young people the same. So that was a slide that I thought was important to talk about. So let's talk about the next steps here. And I just want to get on a screen that's blank so we can talk about it. So I've definitely organized these for the pitch that I'm doing, the different pitches. Docs there. I mean, this is an hour-long pitch of a bunch of really cool technology I'm sharing with the world. So I have it mostly figured out. It took me a long time to bring it all to the table, and now I'm just practicing the flow of it and getting really good at just leaving out all the the stuff that sidetracks my mind. But the pilot beta search, or the pilot beta launch is the next phase in Experience Over Media application. I have the iPass system integrated. I have the payment system in place where you can spend money in the app, and it goes to a Stripe account, and you will get your coordinates will be, tracked, and we will deploy something to you whenever you order. That is ready. There's a few things in the development process that we're working on now, and specifically, this is where I'm going to be reaching out and getting help from third parties and partners in this. So we working on right now the user authentication, getting people signed up, creating a credit cards, payment. I said that, but all the stuff you would need in a profile system. We're also working to integrate the product API of all the products you want to create within this a lot more. And I chose 120 different items that I thought would make sense to start with. There's a manifest that I have within my deck, my investor deck that you can check out. But essentially it's a lot of small everyday items that you can get at CVS, or things that you would need that you don't necessarily want to go out and get. I started with that, but it can do anything really for the most part. I'm also working the Maps API integration. I talked about that. We have it in place. It's working using the Google Maps APIs. However, I need the hardware to actually work with that in our warehouses. We also have to figure out the inventory management of what that is going to take to scale up warehouse distribution, similar to like how Amazon's figured that out. Maybe I'll just ask Amazon or somebody to help me do it. Item distribution. How are we going to get it to you? A part of that is my proto initiative I'm creating, but also there's partners out there that already do it. We have the logistics in place. We will work with them. And also thinking about enterprise resource planning and what that entails. And really a big part of that is just figuring out how to transition from a small LLC, one-man band that I am, into a big 150, 1,000, 10,000 person strong company someday. That's the goal for me. And so what that entails is putting an executive team in place. I have a long list of people I'm going to bring on for this in the early stages and down the road. Immediate concern is finding a CEO and a CTO to help balance out a lot of the processes in making this happen. And also finding full stack developers across the board that are going to help develop all these different phases of the technology. Establishing business partnerships and allow us to do certain things that they're better at their craft, everything from security to just the immersive automation process I'm talking about. And the worldwide beta groups, which I'm starting to allot and roll out now. And so I have some narratives and all that stuff, some write-ups, and all these docs are available on request. I just don't put them live because I don't think everybody needs to see them, or it's very important. So 3 upcoming features that I am integrating into XOM. I've already talked about for the most part, but the social stream, which is basically just allows you to share an iPass system and you're getting something and sharing it with your friends, so it encourages them to use it. The immersive assistant, which is powered by Aware technology, which will do a lot of the stuff I talked about with analytics and a lot of the AI integration. And the live broadcast format. Now, I've thought about how I'm going to take the DFX immersive broadcast stuff into this and how it's not going to overlap. But they're all integrated technologies, and so this is really a mobile-based experience, but it can also be a wearable-based experience. And then the immersive broadcast stuff is pretty much in like a home or with an Oculus or something you wear. It's not really mobile because you're not going to be able to immerse yourself on a flat screen. And so my final thoughts on all the what's happening now, what's next with Experience Over Media, is the partner engagement, finding the right partners for the job to make it happen, creating milestones that are realistic timelines based off of what we set out and what we want to do, and just understanding the usage activity. Let me read this. Understanding what it's going to take to do this, the user activity, how we're going to scale it up, and all that fun stuff. So that is the pilot beta next steps portion of this. And we are about two-thirds of the way through this. And so I'll just rocket through this other stuff now. Now, one thing I briefly wanted to talk about is my Oasis Core platform. This is where this all started. This is the very beginning of my AR kind of development that I created in my Oasis Live game. Oasis Core platform is very similar to the XOM technologies. It's actually, XOM is built off of this. And I actually built a location-based AR game similar to Pokemon Go or Jurassic World Live for this. And so, without diving too deep into Oasis Live, I will note that I still haven't launched the official game. I launched a pilot beta where you can play it and check it out. And I didn't really deploy the mapping part of it. And part of the reason was I was pivoting and strategizing a lot of this new stuff coming out and thinking about all these different game concepts. And I just decided that I needed to put it on hold for a while. And so let me just find my mouse. It just likes to hide from me. Oh, and that's the info if you want to contact me regarding the XOM stuff. Look at it, it's going up there. What's going on here? Where is it? You have to update the SSL for this. But essentially, this is just Oasis app.live site. You can go here, sign up for the app, and then when we launch the actual, you can also download the app and play it. Check out the app I've created, but this will get you on to when the official release, whenever I create it and deploy it. I mean, this is always going to be there. I'm always going to have it. I'm going to eventually build it out. It's just a lower priority. But I wanted to mention it because Oasis Core is the foundation of everything that I'm doing now, and it really is what had me pivot and really go into this. So this is a white paper that's on my LinkedIn. It's pretty in-depth about the industry, and I wrote this a few years ago. It goes into a lot of the campaign strategies I'm going to talk about in the end, and all kinds of really interesting stuff that you guys, anybody in this space, probably want to think about, along with some concepts I've created. So this is my Oasis Core white paper. Check it out, and you'll learn some cool things. And that leads me to, I guess I'll talk about Proto first, and then I'll talk about my Zycon conference after that. So let's briefly talk about Proto. And I'm going to talk very briefly about this because I don't even have a site up for this. I have a placeholder there. I haven't launched any concepts. I have concepts I'm building in my mind. And I'm creating AGVs for the delivery service for experience over media, essentially. I call them modular deployment systems, meaning that they plug into each other and help each other out. And so I have 4 that I'm creating. I have a Proto Extreme, a Proto Zipper, a Proto Float, and a Proto Flight is all you need to hear and all you need to know. The Proto Extreme is for long-range off-road capabilities. The Proto Zipper is speedy for short-range deliveries, like in the moment, really fast, small items. The Proto Float is as it sounds. It's meant for autonomous aquatic deliveries. And the Proto Flight system is a UAV that picks these other parts of these other UAVs up and these autonomous vessels up and helps extend their range. So let's just say you need to get like a vessel or float out to somebody out in sea. Maybe they need something for when they're on their boat. You could take one of the Proto Flight and attach the float to it, fly it out, a few miles out into the sea, and then deploys into the sea, and then the boat takes it from there. And the Extreme, they all attach the same way, using certain technologies to help make that happen. And this extends the range and also makes it very versatile. One of the biggest challenges I saw with a lot of the AGVs and just the delivery bots is that they're very boxy, and I understand why that is. They're essentially like a package, but they're not very appealing, and they're kind of cumbersome, and I wanted to bring some sex appeal and some style to them. So I'm very much thinking a lot like what you would do with like Italian supercars or just German engineering, to where there's some slick and it's also practical appeal behind making them look cool and fast and play a part and all work together, so that you're not developing something that can only be used one place. You're developing a whole system that can be sprawled out and deployed as you need to. And so I'm still on the Oasis Live backdrop as I talk about this, but I don't know what happened. My mouse isn't working anymore for some reason. Maybe I'm out of battery. Car up there, that's just temporary, because the drawings are not done yet. What's going on here? And that logo is also temporary too. I basically just trace and change something up a little bit and just to get something up there. But the modular deployment systems is the acronym that I'm using for this technology, these AGVs, which is autonomously guided vehicles, right? Which is anything from drones to rovers to boats to anything that drives itself and guides itself using mapping systems. So I have the mapping systems already plotted out in the routing within Google Maps, and I have my iPass system. Now I'm creating the hardware to help deploy this stuff. As that's the purpose of Proto. That's why I'm doing it. This car eventually will be replaced with something else that's more, 5 or 6 feet in length. That's probably the size we're going to work. And I'm really trying to gear it around, similar to what you'd see in bike lanes. So we have a lot of bike lanes that are coming in Boston, and we're putting a lot more bus lanes, and we're taking lanes away from cars to try to shift the transportation industry. And so I'm trying to align the Proto stuff with this new shift to where these can travel in the bike lanes with a lot of like the boosted boards and the scooters and bikes and all that stuff, and just be a part of that flow. And that's my strategy with that. And I will just leave it there because we will reveal the drawings probably, I mean, my goal is sometimes in 2023 to actually have some of this built out. Maybe like summer next year I can build some, actually showcase some actual real prototypes. The drawings though, however, are all I'm going to showcase this November and talk about it a little bit. I'm going down to New York to pitch and meet with a bunch of investors in a lot of my stuff. And that's when I'm going to be showcasing some of these cool designs I'm doing. So I look forward to anybody sharing it with anybody interested in this space. It's really fun building things and bringing stuff to life. And hardware isn't cheap, but it's just you know, helps change the world. And a lot of what we see a lot of the other tech guys doing, I feel like it's my part in a lot of that, and maybe they can use it for their stuff someday. Who knows? And I guess what I'll do is I will talk about the ZyCon conference last, and I'll talk about my new digital storytelling ad campaign that I've been starting to work on social media. Now you briefly saw it, and I haven't had a lot of time to do this because I've been moving, but I call this new campaign called Turn Up the Heat, and essentially it's rich media designs for a lot of the reels we see happening on TikTok and Instagram, to where we're transitioning from videos and photos to 10-second, 20-second, 30-second reels of very high-end, desirable content, like absorbing a lot of information in a short amount of time. Memes are a current thing, but the next thing in my mind are actually going to be reels, or memes that are reels, that are actually storytelling and a lot of information, very briefly, very high-end production. Now my focus being a digital media animator is really focusing on a lot of the particles and the After Effects animation and the FX stuff, like the DigiFX and me, stylized ads I've created. And so I don't know if I have anything in front of me here. I mean, I kind of want to like have the backdrop. I need to make some backdrops for when I talk about a lot of this stuff. But let me see what we got here. I think this is just out of batteries because it just stopped working. Mouse just isn't working anymore. Well, it's okay. I will just go into my last part of this while I talk about the Turn Up the Heat campaign. So essentially, instead of just creating ads, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create like storyboard rich media ads for when I start talking about stuff now. So basically all the ads you've seen me put on social media on all my sites, I am now bringing them back into After Effects, and I'm creating animated, visually appealing versions of those. And I just started doing that briefly with certain plugins. There are a lot of plugins out there that we know, like Plexus is a big one. Video Copilot's a 3D program I use in After Effects. But there's dozens that I've used. Red Giant has a lot of stuff I've been using, and a lot of 3D programs that play a part in that I'm integrating into this and helping conceptualize different ways to utilize it. But it's a whole other thing I have to think about outside of everything else I've just talked about. So I briefly started laying out these digital storytelling ad campaigns, I call them. So they're story-driven campaign strategies. Essentially, it's like storyboarding a movie or a script or a show, but putting it into ads that you launch every couple of days, a series. And you've seen me, you've kind of seen me do this a little bit with this DFX astronaut guy I've been working on, where I'm doing some particle effects in there. So I'm just starting to do that, but moving forward, I'm going to do that a lot more heavier in terms of my advertising. And that's just how I'm going to get into the real game, and try to really amp up my skill set within After Effects to do it. And the purpose of this was to kind of promote and launch the proto, but I balked it a little bit. It wasn't perfect. So that leads me into a place where I can share everything I just talked to you about. And so I created a conference I call ZyCon, ZYCONN, .com. Is where you can go to this site. And it's not done yet, but it's a work in progress, like a lot of this stuff. And it works now. Okay, and so what I've started doing is basically conceptualizing a site with themed events that we can work on, workshops, all that stuff, and then more importantly a schedule. So I just talked about everything in a whatever long it's been. It's been like an hour and a half. I eventually want to build out or talk or create stuff in a 3-day conference, and so I've been laying out the proto stuff, and a lot of stuff isn't in here yet because it's going to be more of a reveal, and I'm going to kind of make that a surprise. If you watch this, you'll know about it, but if you don't and you go to this, it's going to be something new. And so my conference is going to allow for me to bring in partners that I've talked to about the ZOM stuff and showcase and partners with DFX that I've talked about, a lot of the immersive broadcast stuff, and partners for a lot of this other stuff there. So there's a purpose behind me doing this, but at the same time, it's just a way to get people that love technology and media to come together. And I actually started a meetup group called Technology and Media, and I got a lot of people signing up for it. I just didn't have the capacity or the time to host it, or to find like keynote speakers or stuff, or workshop people. This is my second attempt on that, but instead of doing a meetup, I'm going to do a conference. Now, we can always start with a virtual conference, and a virtual conference is pretty easy because you're just at the same time, you're just, my mic is off again. You just have to create some kind of experience, but I'm getting ready to get back into the real world, and it'd be cool to host something like Vegas or some big convention center, and to get the resources and funds to do that. So my Zycon conference is going to allow for me to kind of roll out a lot of these technologies, reveal cool new things we're doing, and also create an annual meetup to where all my peers and all my friends in the industry want to showcase and share their expertise in the field, and also create a growing consciousness around what I'm trying to do, but really the bigger picture. If we go back to my slide in the DFX pitch about understanding the big picture in life and what we're doing with the technology world and how you can play part in it. And so this 3-day schedule, really the first day, if I'm just looking at it over here, is all about experience over media and the immersive automation process. I've broken down each part of it into their own set talking sections. And then day 2 and 3 are where we dive into partners. And so I chose the 2 biggest technologies I'm using for this, and that's Amazon and Google, assuming they would do this, they want to be a part of this. I just don't really ask. I just do, and then if they yell at me, I'll take it down. But the part of this is just me also appreciating their help, their guidance, and the resources they provided me. I mean, Google, the reason why I chose Google Automation in my home is because I've been Google, a lot of the Google apps and the Google business stuff really allowed for me to continue growing my skill set and my development in my professional life. And I also want to I shop on Amazon, but I also have because I don't have any Google products, I decided to go Google Home. Plus, I think the Amazon stuff was and something I had to consider too. But I was really like the Nest stuff that I have, and I have a couple of Nest cameras now, and I like the ecosystem with that. But a lot of people also, Amazon and even Facebook and other companies have their own thing they're coming out with, like in Portal. So the point I'm getting at is I want to contribute to all these companies any way I can, and so my Zycon conference will allow for me to maybe do that if everybody's on board for that. And so I encourage you guys to check out this list. I'll be adding stuff as we go. Some of the stuff I just mentioned, like my rich media ads and my proto stuff, will probably be added in here at some point, along with some of the few other companies I briefly talked about. But all in all, it's just my internet, my streams having a hard time. It's just tapping out. Like I'm just watching the YouTube and it's saying no data, as in I need to create some mesh. I have to get some Google Mesh stuff for my house or something to where I can stream in my studio and still have my home automation going. Because something I think is ever since I installed I have 2 Nest thermostats now in the 2 rooms. And ever since I installed those, my outlets, my Wemo outlets they're not staying connected, and I'm finding that my internet is very choppy, and I'm only adding more stuff. So, and I have pretty fast Xfinity Wi-Fi. It's pretty fast. I think it's like a gig per second speed. It's 120%, and I'm still having issues. So I'm hoping that's a meshing issue and not a speed or a bandwidth or a capacity issue. Because if it is, then I don't really know what the solution is, other than having a broadcast somewhere else on a different internet. But I was also thinking maybe what I can do is I can take some of the home automation and I can bounce it over to like a 5G hotspot that I pay for. So that way, for instance, the other day my cameras went down. They're battery operated and they're not plugged in. So if the power goes out, they still record. However, they went down because the internet turned off. And so I lost access. I was like, well, hey, if the internet turns off and the cameras go down, how do I solve that? And there needs to be a way to them to bounce over to a hotspot as a backup. And so I wrote to Google about this and seeing if there were a way to integrate that in like a fail-safe system. But I also am thinking about maybe I can just use Google Fi as a part of like my whole Google Home thing to build in that experience and just have that running here and see what that's going to cost in terms of data consumption. So that's one of my solutions for this. Maybe it'll help the streams. It does seem to be doing a lot better now. My key's really good. Just briefly talking about the next phases of my broadcast like this. I am going to be transitioning into multiple angle scenes. So what you see in front of you is just me in front of my green screen doing like a more of a traditional pitch. However, I am going to be going back to the other different places. I just have to figure that stuff out. I haven't gotten that far. And so the ultimate goal here is to create some kind of transitional content, some rich media ads and videos to help play a part in all of them, in all of that. And so I'm not going to play any videos on this stream, but in the future, from like the pitch experiences I've seen, it's a combination of pitches like this with like breaks, with like there's media, and I have a bunch of that created. So I have to define and lay out a timeline and a schedule and agenda that I stick to, very slick agenda that transitions from each one of those seamlessly and spaces out, and also throws in some of my brands, maybe get some partnerships and advertising in there, just to keep the streams going, and also cutting down a lot of the extra stuff. So that's the future of the streams, and I'm really going to be working on the Digi-Studios.Live side of this, on more of kind of the creating these environments similar to what you see you've seen me do in the past. So like, this is just a loading screen here, but also, like you can have stuff like this. This is my Experience Over Media logo, so I have to create a bunch of stuff like this, and I can only have 25 screens up at once, so it's just figuring out what needs to be prioritized and what's not. And that's pretty much it. So I will call it at that, and let me just come back onto the screen so I can sign off. And that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and it wasn't too wordy and lengthy. I'm really excited for my new setup and what I can do with it. And there's a lot I'm going to show you guys in terms of the hardware that I'm working on in my personal life, in my work life, and also just the media endeavors I have underway. So I hope you have a good night, enjoy your weekend, and next week I'll be diving into a lot of Experience Over Media stuff and the next phases of that, a lot of stuff I talked about. So that's it. I'm Nate Miller from DigiFX. See you later.